Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome and a very good evening to you. Thank you, Deepak, for having me here. I think it's a good event, and I've been to your Delhi event, and this is kind of a new experience for me. I'm not too sure whether I'll be able to share or tell you something about how I'm using the hardware or software industry. I don't think I need to do that. But yes, I mean, I'd like to give you a perspective in terms of what, as an IT association, that we feel and we can probably do. And although I have very limited experience in this business, but I will still share with you what I've seen for the past few years. But before that, let me give you a bit of perspective, or rather, bit of information in terms of what MAIT is. A quick half a minute maybe. MAIT was formed in 1982 when PCs had just started coming into the country, and that time the likes of HCL, Wipro, TDS, these came together and thought that why don't we create a forum by which the similar businesses can come together and probably help the government as well as the industry grow. Government specifically because India was very new to such kind of a technology, and enabling policies were to be created. That's how MAIT was formed. So when it was formed as Manufacturers Association for Information Technology. Now let's look what has happened in the past 32 years. And somewhere Association for IT has remained and manufacturers has gone somewhere. So so what do we do? Very simple, let's transform, let's become what is relevant today, and I think that's a big step that MAIT itself is taking right now. I call it as MAIT 2.0, and we would want to not only be representatives of the manufacturers in the country, of course it's not that there is no manufacturing right now, but we would also like to be the representative of the IT hardware sector, the entire ecosystem. And as you know, the ecosystem kind of has everybody in it, and hence the channel association and the channel community definitely plays an important role. So that's very largely what MAIT is, and two things that I feel are the most important for all of us in business is one, the market acceleration itself. If a market is not continuing to grow on the regular pace that we want, it's not a good sign. Similarly, the businesses that we want to do in the country, if it's not easy to do, then I think it's not a good sign. So my personal agenda and MAIT's agenda is two things: market acceleration and ease of doing business. And looking at these two things, we thought that how we can get this fragmented IT industry together. There are a lot of problems all across. If you're a small business person, or you're a large business person, you're a manufacturer, you're an Indian company, you're an MNC, let me tell you, the problems are everywhere. Deepak mentioned that larger companies may be able to survive. Let me tell you, things are not like that. Today, even the larger companies are facing a lot of problems, and there are two very good examples of two companies which were considered to be the best in their area have moved out of that business. I mean, HCL and Wipro both very recently, in the past few months, if you've been reading, you must have noticed news which says that both of them are moving out of manufacturing business. So the situation is similar for everyone, and I think hence it is important that this entire fragmented industry comes together. So coming on to the channel, I've been past 3-4 months. I've spoken to many channel associations and many channel partners, and in fact, unfortunately, when I end up in such meetings, I forget faces, and it becomes a little awkward for me. So I just say hello to everyone. Oh, it was nice meeting you. So no offense to anybody, but let's take it lightly. I have my limitations of memory. My memory is smaller. The technology is still not advanced that I have. But if we look traditionally, how IT business in India evolved, at least to the times I remember, the products were sold in very small stores through distribution. Then the smaller stores started becoming bigger because the proliferation started happening. IT equipment started moving into various parts of the country, and smaller stores become larger. Then the new format came in, LFRs came in, and now what we see is e-commerce happening. And I do understand people who have been into traditional businesses, old businesses, they do feel the heat of this change. But I think as businessmen, we should go ahead and adapt this change because I remember almost 7, 8, 10 years back maybe, when the large format stores came, people had apprehension in terms of the smaller ones would die, but that's not the case today. Both were surviving. So similarly is the case with e-commerce. And the reason why I'm seeing this is because if you look at IT penetration in the country, I think we are still below 10%. Let me give you an example. Last year, the PC, which includes desktops and laptops, together were almost 11 million units sold, which took the overall base to close to 60 million. Now, we are a very large country. I mean, we are a country of 1.3 billion people. Imagine, turn it into percentage and you'll realize that the penetration is extremely low. So, question is whether PC will grow 20%, 30%. No, it's not that. It's what the penetration of devices will happen. So, the new device in the market is tablets and smartphones. But different devices will always have different penetration levels. So the point I'm trying to make is that I feel we have still not got into the depth of the country, and the depth of the country holds very large potential. That's exactly where the great opportunity for all traditional brick and mortar channel partners is, because larger organizations, or rather e-commerce players probably can reach a certain limit. But if you are sitting in a smaller town with a smaller population and you have people around you and they want a personalized service, I think the best guys are the so-called offline traders, the channel partners. So potential extremely high. But yes, I mean there are two sides of it, and while I have been talking to many partners, lot of reports have come saying that the business is being hurt by e-commerce portals. Business has been hurt by retailers, and they're fair in what they're saying, because there have been cases where the prices have been really slashed in such a manner that these partners, these small businesses cannot really sustain. And I think that was one of the reasons where many of the brands actually started announcing that, oh, these are not my partners, so consumers can buy at their own risk. So I think it's a first good step. The second step that we want to discover is whether the business done by them is ethical or not. If there's a level playing field across, if the small partners and the large ones or the e-commerce portals are all doing business at the same level, then I don't think it's a problem. Then I think you should welcome it. But you're buying a product from, say a small distributor and taking that product, putting it on your portal and selling it at a lower price, I don't think that would be right. So yes, it's important to maintain that thing. So the question is, what can we do? How can we work? Now, I met people from south, I met people from north, I met people from west and east and everywhere, and everybody is putting some effort. I mean, there have come a couple of very great examples where they have come together, some of the association have come together and actually formed guidelines. I think it's important that same practice is replicated, and if there is a uniformity across, I think it will make a lot of difference. And hence, what we want to do as MAIT is, we are inviting all channel partners. We are saying that under MAIT, because we work a lot on the top level, we work with central governments a lot. and we have a great depth in terms of our relations with them. We're saying that let's form an All India Channel Forum. Let this forum have a representative of each association, and let us all come together, and can we develop a framework? Can we work together in such a concerted manner that these issues can be tackled? So both things we want to do. Our prime agenda is market acceleration, increasing the IT penetration. Our second agenda is ease of doing business. Can we do it together? So that's what the broad plan is, and I think we should really not get bothered whether the business is happening or not. Let me tell you, the business is going to happen, and it's going to happen a lot. I mean, look at what's happening around. The broadband is now reaching every village, every panchayat. If you look at the NOFN project, 3 pilot, and they are extremely successful. Government has become much more realistic in terms of implementing that project. So there are more realistic timelines, and I think a lot of change that we'll see in the next 2 years. Second is the most important thing was the language was a barrier. A national digital literacy mission is being set up, and it has now a government nod approval. And what you will see in that is that you will see digital literacy actually happening in the deepest part of or the corner of the country. And so if a device is required, somebody has to be there. I think you're the best guys to be there. So this is very broadly which I wanted to kind of create a picture. I hope I was successful. The other areas that you should really look at is, and the country is growing rapid, and I've met a lot of people from services in the sense of providing AMCs, hardware services, and I always come across a problem that you don't find enough skills. You don't find the right guys to do service. So what are we doing about it? I think there's a lot of work happening around that. Let me introduce you to something called as the Electronics Sector Skill Council of India, and MAIT is also a board member in that. The Electronics Sector Skill Council has been formed with 5 associations in the NSDC, and it comes directly under the Ministry of Finance. The idea of creating this council was that industry will have a say in terms of creating something called as National Occupational Standards. Now what is a NOS? A NOS is nothing but, say for example, you need a service technician for a photocopier. Just an example. Now there are certain skill set that person would need, irrespective of which brand it belongs to. It could be Xerox, it could be Ricoh, it could be Canon, it could be HP or whatever. But there are certain skill sets which are required. Can the industry come together, give a description to that skill set, and say that this is what I need? And if that occupational standard is created, if students who are in IITs or who are in engineering or polytechnic, as soon as they come out of their college, or rather within when they are actually studying, these occupational standards are kind of integrated into their curriculum. What will happen is that you will get people who are ready with those skills. So there's a course specifically designed, for example, for servicing a PC, and you will find ready people available. The benefit is you don't have to train them. Somebody else has already paid that money, and believe me, the government is paying 10,000 rupees per candidate for this. It's called as a STAR scheme. You can always go to essc-india.org and get more details about it, and of course I can always share it and write to me also. So very broadly, a lot of things are happening, and I think we won't have troubles related to business. But what the most important thing that we need to do is, I think it's important to come together, sit and decide what is the future that we want to create. We end up firefighting always. There's an issue and we start firefighting, and I think it's time that we create a framework, we create policies, and go to the government and say, okay, this is what you need to do. And I think that would make a big difference. Thank you very much.